So it's been a while since we talked about Goodwill on the channel, and for good reason. A few years ago, I kind of gave up on Goodwill, and I made that video. I'll put a card at the top of this video kind of talking about that, but kind of just gave up. A lot of their video game stuff is sent to their auction site, and I stand by most of the things I said in that video. I think that the Goodwill auction site is awful, and I understand why they might want to try to get a little bit more for their stuff, but at the end of the day, their stuff is still untested, and I know they say it's tested, but let's be real here, guys. Like, they're not actually fully testing controllers and systems and games. A lot of stuff ends up scratched or pretty messed up, and they sell it as is, and they get this stuff for free. So I decided that I would challenge myself to go to a bunch of different Goodwills in my general area and see what I could get, what kind of cool stuff I could find. Could I find games at all? Could I find anything interesting? So I decided to head out, film in my Goodwills, film their media sections, film their electronic sections, film whatever is applicable, where I would used to find games. And I used to find games a lot. I mean, if you go and search Goodwill on my channel, a lot of my old pickup videos, which are very rough to watch these days, I used to find stuff at Goodwill all the time. My copy of Klonoa I found there. I found Dreamcast games there. I found N64 games there. I found a copy of Conquer there one time. You know, I used to find great stuff there. I used to find bundles, and it used to be awesome. And before filming this video, I had kind of given up on even going to Goodwills, probably since whenever that last video was. It's been 2021, 2022, somewhere around there, since I've even really bothered going into Goodwills, and I've not found anything at Goodwills in the few times I have. So I wanted to see. I think I went to like 6 Goodwills and a Goodwill specialty store, the Goodwill bookstore that I'll tack on at the end. If I could find any games at all, any games for sale, and if there would be anything even worth buying at these Goodwills. So why don't we go ahead and just find out? So at our first Goodwill here, this Goodwill, I used to find stuff here weekly pretty much. They had some great PS2 games there. This Unicorn Head was the best find of this Goodwill. I found N64 games here. I found my copy of Castlevania Bloodlines here, which is kind of funny to think. I found it card only in with like the glasswares. I think someone tried to hide it, and I got that for like a $2 or something. So used to find stuff. They got their media here, and as you can see, a lot of DVDs. Kind of looking here, I did find one game, FIFA Soccer 11, so not all the games are being sent to the Goodwill auction site, right? So a complete copy of FIFA Soccer 11. Obviously not one that I'm going to pick up. I like how they kept the garage sale 50-cent tag on it, even though their media is $2.49, as we'll see later. This had the wrong game in it. U-Star 2 had Dance Central in it, but 2 games I found. So... you know, it's a start. It's something. 2 more games for PS2, both just like poker games. So obviously not the most interesting titles here, but once again, something, right? It's certainly something. So, in these videos, the footage is a little bit choppy. I chopped out like me walking from the media section to like the electronics section or to the wherever, just because, I mean, you need to see me like kind of walking through the clothes aisles. Probably not very interesting content. So keep that in mind. And obviously I'm filming this on my phone, just kind of casually holding it up. So I don't, I'm not trying to film cameras blazing in here. So it might be a little bit strange. So you can see this Goodwill is pretty well packed. A lot of Christmas stuff. This was filmed in mid-January, these clips. So, interesting, but a lot of Goodwills lately had been pretty barren. So this Goodwill's pretty well packed, although I don't know if the stuff's that great. So apparently I didn't cut the part of me walking to the electronics, but kind of get an idea, I guess. So here's our electronics section. Used to find consoles here. Used to find, handheld sitting on there. All kinds of stuff. Used to find good stuff back in the day. Obviously nothing too interesting here as well. But we'll head on over to Goodwill number 2 now. This Goodwill, I found like a Dreamcast here one time, a few Dreamcast games sporadically. This has never been one of the best Goodwills for me, but I found stuff here. I used to do a route of like hitting every Goodwill in the area at least weekly, and would come home with, a few games here and there for cheap. How I build up a lot of like my PS2 collection, how I build up a lot of like stuff like that. So, I mean, I used to do well there. And now, as you can see, a lot of what I would consider junk in this Goodwill, but I was surprised to see how well stacked these are. I guess COVID hit pretty hard because, These used to be really poorly stocked Goodwills. I mean, this Goodwill specifically, I remember going in like 2021, 2022, and it being having like nothing in it. So, pretty well, stocked here. $45 for this TV. It's a trend in this video that I kind of go over and film these very old TVs and see how much they want for them. And $45 for that ancient TV, not a great deal. A lot of these Goodwills are stocked like have a ton of these crappy older TVs, and I can see why, because they charge a lot for them. And you'd think, I know a lot of thrift stores just ask like, do not donate us TVs, just don't, like, and a lot of those TVs unfortunately are not very, they're not CRTs, so people really don't want them. So a lot of them are probably going to just head to the e-cycling eventually. But we're at the media section here. I haven't mentioned it yet. This is a very well stocked media section, and we got Assassin's Creed, but it's not the movie. I didn't know they made like it's the movie, not the game. So I didn't even know they made that. So I knew that they made like the live action one, but I didn't know that they had like animated ones, it looks like. But I mean, as you can see, a lot of media. I went through absolutely no video games like whatsoever. Although they did have something arguably better, Minnesota Cuke Veggie Tales, which, I mean, way more awesome. So into Goodwill number 3. This one is probably the worst filming of any of the Goodwills, but you can see $50 for that TV. I think they're on something there for that one. But I started filming at the media center here, and the filming in this one's weird just because it was really busy in there and just not great. I was looking at this ink. I didn't point the camera at it, but it was like 4-year expired ink that they wanted like $15 for or something ridiculous. So I don't know what they were thinking there, but electronics section not looking so hot here, as you can see. But I did find a Wii Fit. So this was a game. Found another game. We're up to what, 5 games now? They wanted $12.07 for that. I don't know if, everything was in there, but that was the electronics section there. Not obviously very impressive. This TV, they had only $15.98. I don't know why the other TV was $50, but here's their media section. A lot of the same DVDs, Blu-rays that you would normally see here. Nothing too interesting. There was a Resident Evil movie there, so close to a game, but there were no games in here. I'll spoil it now. There was absolutely no video games mixed in with their media at this one. Which is kind of what I would come to expect from most Goodwills. So of the Goodwills we've been to so far, we've been to 3. There were games at one of them. That would have never been the case. Even, 5 years ago, you would go in and you would at least find a stack of 360 sports games. And I know that stuff's getting older, and we're now at the point where you'd probably find PS4 games, and a lot of those are going to be digital. Of anyone who would, get rid of their games would probably have just bought their sports games digital in the first place. So I get that, but at the same time, I don't know what's up. I was trying to find prices on the DVDs there. They didn't have a sign up, so that's why I lifted up that one DVD, but I don't know. I think they're probably $2.49. Goodwill number 4. This Goodwill actually moved, but this was the Goodwill that I found my copy of Klonoa at. I found a really good stack of N64 games there. I found like Marvel vs. Capcom on Dreamcast there. So this used to be a pretty good Goodwill, and it moved into this location. I don't know what I'm doing with my camera there, but I'm heading over to the glass case where they do have some games. So we got a handful of games here. I did pick one game up in there. I'm going to have you guys guess which one I picked up. Because there's actually a game worth picking up in here. Their games, I think their PS4 games were like $10, which is way too much. They had these systems. I think Wii's were $30. I don't know why I filmed the shoes instead of the video games. I wasn't really paying attention too much, but I think the PS2 Slims were $70, which is not very great for untested systems. And the 360 or the PS3 that they had, I think was like $60, which is also not great for an untested system. And then I think the Wii's were $30 with no controllers or anything. So not amazing. But they did have games. That's the most games we've seen in the store so far. Media section, didn't spend too much time at this media section just because they actually know what video games are, so they separated them. I remember back in the day being able to go, I went up to the CD cases and I would look for the little white NTSC and the little Dreamcast label at the top and just scan them all. And I used to be, find PS1 games. They got a ton of TVs here. Not very well priced, as you can imagine. That's why they have so many. This one, Goodwill especially, used to have a bunch of computers that I think were donated by a local college, and they were asking like $100. So this ancient TV here, they want $50 for. I mean, that has to be like a pre-2010 model. So I just don't know what they're thinking with that one. 50 bucks for that bad boy. It does at least have HDMI, I guess. But that's all from this Goodwill that I really filmed. I did end up bidding that copy of FIFA 15, which is, as if you might know, the Wii U came out in 2012. The last Wii U FIFA game was FIFA 13. So the fact that FIFA 15 that came out in 2014 made it to the Wii is kind of novelty, and it's worth about $15 to $20. So for $471, the cashier told me that I changed a life by making that purchase. So I'm happy about that. I like to think that the cashier, we're at Goodwill number 5, by the way. I like to think that cashier was not like mandated to say, oh, you changed her life today. I think I genuinely changed her life by buying a Wii game from 10 years ago. A lot of media here, very poorly organized. Nothing in the glass cases, as you can see, of any video game note at this Goodwill. This Goodwill was also one that moved. You can see they went $40 or $30 for that, $31 for that DVD VCR combo with no remote. This Goodwill's also one that moved. I used to get like N64 stuff all the time at this Goodwill at the original location. And I did pretty well here. I found like Final Fantasy VII here. I found my copy of Wild Arms 2 here like 5 years ago. I used to do pretty well here. So I used to get games pretty regularly. $24 for that little guy over there. I remember this guy from Star Wars 9. I don't remember his name, so leave his name in the comments below. I like this guy. Don't really like that movie very much, but like that little guy at least. Goodwill number 6. I believe this was the last Goodwill we visited that wasn't the bookstore, the specialty store. And this was another one for a while that was like really, really, I don't know what I'm doing with the camera there. That was really, really like low stock. And now it's pretty well stocked, but not, great items. Definitely not what we're looking for here. This Goodwill this is where I found my copy of Conquer for $6. This Goodwill used to have a ton of games, but they'd price them a little high. And this was like 2016, 2017. So there would be like, they would price things, I remember like seeing like Oracle, one of the Zelda Oracle games on Game Boy Color, and I think they had it at like $15, but it was like, that was like a $25 game. That's not that great of a deal. And nowadays it's like, holy crap, if that was $15 there, that would be a nice little come up there. But the media section here is small, not very impressive. And I just don't know what's up there. So I really don't know. But the next stop I'm going to go to, and it'll change to it in a second, is the Goodwill bookstore. And I actually wasn't going to even stop here, and this was my best stop of this whole project. You can see they have a bunch of games. They're all priced at $5.71. I would have picked up a lot more had the prices been a little lower, but I've only been to this Goodwill bookstore a few times, and they've never had this many games. I think the most games they've had was like, a copy of like Connect Adventures, and that's it. So pretty nice little, I got a nice little stack. We'll go into the score now and see how well I did. Goodwill had a decent amount of games, at least, as you saw in that video. Picked up 4 games from there. The games are $5.71, so after tax, it ends up being around $6. So got to kind of pick and choose. If the games were closer to maybe $3 each, would have grabbed a lot of them in there, but higher and higher, you got to kind of pick and choose as far as, especially with condition and things too. A few games, even at $6 would have been not too bad, but as far as disc condition and everything, got to be careful. So let's see what we got here. A classic reseller game, Michael Jackson Experience. Find this game all the time, worth about $20 on eBay. Sells pretty quick, so nice, complete. Cannot complain whenever I find that one. I'm always thrilled to find that one. Toy Story 3, I know that this one holds some value. I know people like this game quite a bit, too. This is a pretty well-liked game. It's kind of like the initial kind of idea for Disney Infinity in there and stuff. And then, of course, Avalanche Software developed this one when they were still at Disney. They went on to make the Hogwarts Legacy game. So, probably decent quality there, at least. DuckTales Remastered, another Disney game. Holds some decent value. The Way Forward, remaster of the classic game for NES. And then probably the score of this, if you're not aware, this one holds some value. I'm going to say that a lot, I guess, but like a $40 game. So definitely a good one to grab. Even, I think, more valuable on PS or on 360, but PS3 still holds some decent value. And I know people like this game. Kind of was like an interesting game for the time, although it didn't really pick up, but had some interesting ideas if you check it out. So not a bad little haul there. Overall, Can you still find games at the Goodwill in 2025? Not really. So I did find one game going to a bunch of different Goodwills, and then just so happened to go to this Goodwill bookstore that had a bunch of games. Now, I don't know if the Goodwill bookstore, from my guess, I didn't film too much in the Goodwill bookstore. My assumption is that they ship a lot of their media to this specific Goodwill bookstore, because they have the largest amount of DVDs and Blu-rays. As you could see, there was not very many of those at any of the Goodwills that I went to, aside from maybe like one or two. They have the most CDs and all that. CDs nuts. And yeah, so I mean, this is more of a specialty store, so I could see them getting games in at several different Goodwills and then ending up shipping them to here. And that's not, of course, without even mentioning the Goodwill auction website as well. So can you still find games? Maybe. If it weren't for the Goodwill bookstore, I think this video would have been a massive failure. But hey, can't complain. So that's that. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know if you're able to find anything at your local Goodwills, because other than that bookstore, I sure as heck wasn't. But other than that, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and until next time, I'd like to thank you for watching.